Welcome to the Engaging People podcast. This is Charles Rogel, a senior consultant here at DecisionWise. Joining me today is Dave Long.
Hi, everybody.
Dave's also a senior consultant, and today we're going to talk on a specific topic around understanding the vision and goals within an organization, how to promote those and leverage those to create a more engaging environment. So, Dave, you want to kind of introduce this subject, give a little background on this topic in general?
Yeah, this is something where we have when we roll out a survey in an organization, we usually ask around 50 questions.
Yeah.
Every time that I've ever done a survey, a question about the vision and goals has been on the survey. And it's an important question because it can help people, when people understand the vision and goals of the organization, that's kind of foundational to them feeling some degree of meaning in their work, to feel like, hey, I'm building towards something. And we asked two questions in our standard survey that directly address vision and goals. One is, I understand the vision and goals of the organization. And the second is, the vision and goals of the organization are important to me personally. Mm-hmm. So those two questions is really interesting as we kind of look at the results of those two questions. I was working with an organization just a couple of weeks ago where they had their employee population said 70% of them said that they understood the vision and goals of the organization.
Yeah.
85% said that the vision and goals of the organization were important to them personally. So they had 15% of their organization, at least, that were saying, I don't understand the vision and goals, but I know they're important. That's not real common for us to see.
Usually it's reversed.
Usually we see the other way around, where people understand them, but they just don't mean that much to me. But here's an organization that's clearly hungry for some meaning. They believe whatever they're doing is important, but they just don't know what is the firm direction that we're going in order to get to that important end. So it can be very important looking at both of those questions to see, hey, is our message resonating? Not long ago, I worked with a municipality where they had that same oddity, where they had people saying that they believed in the vision and goals of the organization, but they didn't quite understand what they were. Mm-hmm. It's a municipality, it's a city. So the leader of the city was, in her mind, was very clear about what their direction was and their future, how she wanted to run the city and the vision for the city, the goals of the city. She was very clear about that.
Yeah.
And I had all the leaders of the city around the same table. So we just decided to put it to the test. I said, how many of you feel like you understand the vision and goals of the organization? Most of them said, yeah, I think we understand the vision and goals of the city. And so we went through the table and just said, okay, what are they? And we go through probably 15 different leaders of different departments in the city, and everybody had a different answer. Yeah. And I think that's not real uncommon. I think, as you're listening to this and you're thinking about the organization that you work for, you probably have some of that discord among your leadership team. Well, what happens is when that happens among your leadership team, that just amplifies its way through the organization. By the time you get to the front lines, they don't have any idea what's going on or the future
and
direction
hearing
and goals.
Different messages from different leaders. Yeah.
Yeah. So mixed messages. Mm-hmm. And what that does is that says, okay, my leader is telling me that this is the most important thing. This other leader thinks that this is the most important thing. Now, instead of us feeling like we're part of the same organization, now we feel like we're at odds with each other. Yeah. So it impacts our ability to collaborate across departments. It impacts our ability to work with them because we feel like we've got goals that are different from each other. And in some cases, we feel like we have goals that are at odds with each other.
Yeah, so you're saying kind of at the organization level, we need to make sure we're on the same page. And that deeper in the organization, mid-level managers, frontline managers need to also be clear on how it applies to their teams, their work.
Oh, for sure. And so organizations might be in in many different situations. There's really, they can be in any sort of situation with regard to vision and goals. We do have organizations that we work with that have very clear vision and goals, and this isn't even a concern for them. However, I would look in two places if I were trying to address this issue. I would look, let's make sure that the leadership team is all clear about what the vision and goals are. But then you want to look at individual managers and say, are you clear not only how does this, are you clear not only what are the vision and goals of this organization, but also how does it apply to you and your team? And you'd be surprised at how much variation that you get, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised at how much variation you get between different managers, but it can be varied. And so that means that okay, we need to rethink about how we're communicating this from the very top of the organization.
So then at the organization level, what are some approaches that you've seen really be effective in terms of unifying people around vision and goals?
Yeah, I think one thing to ask and ask honestly is, as a leadership team, are we clear on what the goals are? Are we clear on the direction, on the vision of our organization? If they're not, then they need to do the hard work of understanding what their stakeholders need and then saying this is the direction that we need to go in order to fulfill our stakeholders' requests or desires, whatever, needs.
Yep.
And so that's just the hard work of coming up with vision and goals. I mean, there's no quick fix on that or trick to that. It's just we have to figure out what is the direction that we're going to go. If a leadership team feels like they're all on the same page and they feel like, hey, we know what it is and we don't understand why the rest of the organization doesn't know, then you have to look at how are we communicating to this organization, both in a spoken way and in an unspoken way, because are we communicating what are the vision and goals on a regular basis in I don't know, all hands meetings or town hall meetings, whatever you do in your organization, written communication through email, or we're communicating it through our managers and one-on-ones, things like that. Because if we're not, then people will go a few months and they'll say, I don't really remember why we're all doing this. Yeah. Why we're moving in this direction. So there's this whole idea of what are we communicating, but then also what the kind of the latent communication side to it is, are we making decisions that appear at odds with the goals that we said that we're trying to move toward? Yep. And if that's the case, we need to be able to justify changes, decisions that are being made in the organization and show people how does this apply to the vision and goals that we've previously communicated. Right. Or else people are going to get confused. You might say, well, we had a strategy of growth, but this is more of an income strategy, whatever it might be. You need to be able to clarify that for people. And if there are inconsistencies, you need to speak to them and clear them up. So very often they're like, we've told everybody the vision and goals so many times, but at the end of the day, if your actions aren't matching what you're saying are the goals of this organization, then you have some explaining. People aren't going to believe it. No, people won't believe it, right? They'll just say there must be some other goal than what they're telling us.
So say an organization has their goals pretty clear, they're pretty good at communicating these. What's the manager role then? Where do they get hung up sometimes?
I think managers need to ask themselves if they understand what the vision and goals are, and where to the extent that they do or don't, seek clarification. Okay. Talk to your manager. If you're a manager, talk to your manager, or talk to the member of the leadership team. Make sure that you understand. I think managers would do well to have meetings or sessions with their direct reports to help them to discuss where do they think they fit in. Okay, we know what the goals of the organization are. How are our goals aligning or misaligning with the goals of the organization? So I do think it's important to discuss with your team on a team level. I also think that it can be very helpful to reinforce the company vision or goals in one-on-one meetings. Tie personal goals. What's your role personally in helping us fulfill the vision and goals that we're working toward as an organization? Reinforce that in one-on-one meetings. Also ask people in those meetings or in a one-on-one or a team meeting what they think their role is in fulfilling the mission or the vision and goals of the organization as well. I think it's also helpful whenever you're trying to kind of publicize our direction in the organization to share examples, maybe not from your team, but from other parts of the organization to say, hey, these guys are really, in this department are really doing great because they've done X, Y, or Z in support of the goals. But those stories, I think, carry a lot of meaning for people and help people see how we're working together to accomplish these goals. I was
thinking about kind of the role more as a manager, more as kind of the translator of sorts. And so how does this overall corporate vision or these goals really apply to the work that we're doing? How do we fit in? What's our piece of the pie? And so translating that, explaining the why to employees. really helps.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think translate is a good word because we have all this work that we need to do.
Yeah.
And it's day-to-day work, and some of it is button pushing, and some of it feels menial in its nature. But we want to remind people, hey, we're all doing this because of this thing that we all signed up for, these goals. To the extent that those goals are meaningful to people,
right?
That can really help them. You get more commitment. If it's a goal that they're like, well, I don't really benefit from that, or I don't see the benefit to the world that we're making as a company, then it may not resonate as much with them. Exactly.
Well, great, Dave. This has been excellent. Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And if you have any additional questions or want to listen to additional podcasts, visit our website at DecisionWise.com.